Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we are making a cake that I have seen on Instagram and Facebook for a very long time, and I think it's very fitting for summer. This cake is usually called an island cake or an ocean cake, depending on what you want to call it. There's many variations of it, but today I'm going to show you how I made this cake, the exact step-by-step that I did, and also at the end make sure to stick around because I am going to give you tips on what not to do based on how my cake reacted at the end. So be sure to hit the like button if you are excited for this cake. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and at the end don't forget to share this video with a friend, and let's get started. To make the cake, I used 1 box of Duncan Hines chocolate cake mix, 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, 3 large eggs, 1 cup of whole milk, and 1/4 cup of sour cream. To make the batter, I simply placed all the ingredients into my mixing bowl. You can also do this with a hand mixer, and I'm going to mix until the ingredients incorporate, and I'm also going to add in the eggs one by one until they incorporate to the rest of my ingredients. Turn off your mixer and preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or simply follow the instructions on the back of the box. Scrape the sides of the bowl, and to bake my cake I prepared a 6 by 3 inch pan, and this cake can also be made using 2 8 by inch pans and simply dividing the batter in half. Make sure to follow the instructions for baking and be sure to set your timer. My cake was ready in 38 minutes. I'm using ganache to cover my cake on the outside because this will harden and allow us to have a better working canvas. We also want to make sure to protect the cake from the gelatin, and this will definitely help. To make my ganache, I used 1 part whole milk to 3 parts chocolate chips. I will leave you guys a link to a video I made on how to make microwave ganache in the description and on a card in the upper right corner. Allow the cake to cool for 10 minutes in the pan and then place it on a cookie rack to come to room temperature. In case you are not working on your cake the same day, make sure to wrap your cake in saran wrap and store it in the refrigerator for later use. I allowed my cake to cool for a few minutes, and now I'm preparing my cake to carve and cover in ganache. In order to be able to place the gelatin ocean around my cake, I am going to use my Dough Easy silicone springform pan. The silicone basically is going to allow my gelatin to unmold from the pan a little bit more easily and gently. I also made sure to place a dab of ganache to hold my cake in place during the decorating process. To carve out the island or the piece of land that's going to be coming out of my cake, I didn't use any technique. I basically just kind of imagined it. I look at inspiration photos and I just carved out what I thought would look like an island. So that's what you see me doing here. Now in this little bowl, I did go ahead and mash up a little bit of cake with some buttercream so that I could patch in the holes or the bigger areas for a little bit more support. Once I had the shape of my island, I went ahead and covered the entire thing with the ganache that I made previously. And like I said before, this is going to harden and it's going to give us a better surface to work with. I did make gum paste decorations for the bottom of my ocean, but as you'll see in a few minutes, I colored my gelatin too dark, so in the end you weren't able to see them too much. But if you wanted to add decorations, this is basically what I did. I used gum paste, a few molds, and a few different colorings to add color to the decorations. For the gelatin, I used 4 packs of unflavored gelatin, 7 tablespoons of sugar, clear extracts of whatever you want. Here I'm going to use the coconut. I also have lemon juice, 4 cups of water. So I'm going to dissolve all 4 packets of gelatin in 1 cup of cold water, and that's what you see me doing here. Make sure that you whisk it or blend it really well with a fork or a whisk, just to make sure that we activate the gelatin. And we're going to set it aside for approximately 7 to 10 minutes. Now I'm heading to the stove and I'm placing the remaining 3 cups of water into a pot. I'm also adding in the sugar, and I'm going to add in my clear extract. Be sure that if you want your water or your gelatin to be as blue as possible, or like the light blue shade that you're looking for, that you use an extract that is clear so that the colors don't react and create a different or a darker color. After my water and my sugar come to a slow boil, I went ahead and placed the gelatin that we made in that little 1 cup of water into the microwave for 30 seconds to dissolve it. And now I went ahead and turned off the stove, and I'm simply going to stir the gelatin, make sure that I dissolve all the little pieces of gelatin, that all the sugar is dissolved, and I'm basically going to mix until the mixture becomes just pure liquid and there's no lumps and bumps in there. During this part of the process, be sure to taste the mixture that we made in the pot. In case you need more extract, be sure to add more, or if you feel like you need more sugar, add more sugar. But be sure that it's easier and it's better to start with less and add more, and it's easier to do that because if you add more water, then it's going to throw off the firmness of the gelatin. Here what I did is I actually took a little bit of the gelatin into a measuring cup just to test out the blue or the darkness of the blue that I was going for. For this part, I definitely recommend that you don't do what I just did, which was I basically just added the drop of coloring into the gelatin. I would suggest to grab a toothpick and grab a little amount of color and swirl it into your gelatin, because as you will see in my final clip of the video where I show you the unveiling of the cake, my jello turned out too blue and you basically can't see the little decorations that I made for the bottom of the ocean. Okay, so here is where I'm going to start attaching my little decorations, the coral and the starfish that I made. But as I've already mentioned, what I did wrong in my previous step is that I added too much coloring to my jello, making it too blue. So it wasn't transparent enough for you to be able to see all the little things that I added here at the bottom. I do want to mention that this is fondant and I added a little bit of Tylose powder to make it a little bit more sturdy, but I do want to give an observation. I don't know if this has been mentioned before, but when you do add the jello and this starts to become a little bit wet or with condensation, what I noticed is that some of the little decorations do start to disintegrate or melt. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know if anybody has mentioned it before, but maybe I should have used gum paste or I don't know, modeling chocolate to avoid that. But anyway, here I'm going to just make sure to prepare my pan, and basically this is a silicone pan, so my jello shouldn't stick, but I basically just sprayed it with a little bit of cooking spray and I'm just removing the excess with these towels. and I'm going to go ahead and insert the ring, the silicone ring, around the glass bottom. And if you are attempting to do a cake similar to this, or a cake that has jello, I highly recommend using silicone pans, because they are a little bit easier to work with, in my opinion. And you know, that's why I always just prefer to use this pan, especially for projects like this. And as you see, you just basically clamp it in the front, and none of it will drip out because it's a little bit of a suction at the bottom, where you see that little ring, so the spillage is very minimal. There really wasn't any spilling. Here I'm just going to go ahead and start pouring in, and as you'll notice, I'm doing it really slowly because I started to notice that when I poured it in, I saw some of the paint, or like the edible paint, start to peel, and then I obviously noticed that I colored this too dark. But I just decided to, you know what, just keep going, because at the end what happens is that the little paint that kind of like peeled off of the cake, I basically just fished it out with another spoon and it all worked out. But basically I should have done to the front what I'm doing to the back of the cake here, which is pour the remainder of the clear jello at the front, because as you'll see when we unmolded, the back was a little bit more clear than the front. I placed my jello cake or ocean cake in the refrigerator for approximately 3.5 to 4 hours so that it would be able to set correctly. And here what I'm doing is I'm just kind of gently unmolding with my fingers a little bit off the sides of the silicone pan, just to make sure that I don't pull any of the delicate or thin edges when I go to take off the silicone ring around this pan. As I mentioned before, I do recommend using silicone pans for a project like this, because I know that other tutorials do require acetate using an aluminum pan, and you can basically get a higher level of ocean if you use acetate. But this was a project to see if this would work, and just to kind of get the basic recipes so that when you do want to attempt it at home, you have a basic recipe to work with. You can definitely double it, but it was just to kind of give us an idea of what goes behind making an ocean cake. And as you can see here, I am gently peeling the silicone ring off of the base, and I was actually pretty surprised, pretty happy and proud of myself when this actually turned out pretty good. So as you noticed in the beginning, I did use coconut extract to flavor my gelatin, and I didn't think it was gonna taste like coconut. I know that sounds kind of weird, but when I went to taste it, it tasted delicious. So highly recommend making your own jello. Here I did go ahead and take some of these little circus animal cookies and just mash them up, and I'm basically painting some of them green, and the others I'm painting like a light brown to make the little like vegetation and sand around and at the top of my little island. To attach the vegetation, I'm using a little bit of leftover ganache, and then I'm just simply sprinkling the vegetation and the sand or dirt, whatever you want it to be, at the top. And I did go ahead and take a little bit of extra paint and just touched up my island just a tiny bit. I do have to say that this type of cake is very delicate, so if you're thinking of making it for a party, be sure that you do have a refrigerator available, because as soon as you pull it out from the refrigerator, obviously it's a gelatin mixed with a cake, so it starts to create a lot of condensation. I highly doubt that this is a cake that travels well unless you're, I don't know, traveling with a small refrigerator or in a refrigerated box. So just be wary of that when making this cake. Alrighty, and now we are at the most fun part of this video, which is we are going to cut right into this cake and taste it so you can get a look at how it looks on the inside, and so I can describe to you how this cake tastes. Look, you guys, it looks really good. And on this side you can see the gelatin. So now let's try it and get right into it. The chocolate cake is so moist, really good, and I used the box cake, so you can totally do this at home. This is the coconut gelatin. Thank you so much for joining me in today's tutorial. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to also click the little bell so that you're notified every time that I post a video. Leave a comment about what you think about this cake, or if you've attempted to make this cake before. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!